Okay, I see that Nickolas is here. So with no further ado, I am going to bring him in. Welcome, Nickolas. How are ya?
I'm doing spectacular, Eva. Thank you for inviting me onto the show.
Oh, thank you for coming and actually showing up, Ed. No, Ed,
oh yeah,
Nickolas, how you doing, Nickolas?
Ed was supposed to be a guest on my show last week, and he slept through the show. So I'm just.
Oh no, yeah, I know it can happen, but gotta wake up and show up when you need it. And hello there, Mike. Long time no hear, my friend.
Yeah, how you been, man?
Hey, fighting the good fight and doing my best to keep my head above water along the way,
There you go. I'm really glad that you're going to be on the show tonight because there's some questions that I wanted to ask you, and of course I know Eva's full of questions, and I'll let you guys do y'all's thing. But at some point during the show, I do want to ask you some questions about Gavin Newsom and what's being done and how it's being approached, and is the approach, in your mind, a feasible one, and that kind of stuff, But yeah, welcome to the show, man. I'm glad. I saw your wife had posted a few things on Facebook, and then you posted in the Gateway. And of course, I approved them. It's very seldom ever used anymore because I've just about given up. I just about given up doing radio. I help Eve out on Tuesdays when Jimmy's not available. But yeah, y'all have at. Talk to me about Gavin Newsom. I want to hear about him.
Do we have enough time? I mean,
of course we do.
I feel like if we start this conversation, we'll be going until the sun comes up, because it goes down and then comes back up again.
Well, we know that. Okay, this is from day one. Let's be honest. We've been trying to recall Gavin Newsom because he was a thorn in all of our sides when he was lieutenant governor. And he just basically took over for Jerry Brown. That's what it ended up being. They're all peas in a pod. Now,
absolutely.
Last year, several petitions were going around to recall Gavin Newsom. To my knowledge, you cannot combine all those petitions. Is that correct, Nickolas?
That is correct. So if you're petitioning to recall Gavin Newsom and I'm petitioning to recall him, we cannot consolidate those signatures for the same effort, simply because those are considered two separate petitions. So unfortunately, that added to the previous attempts being unsuccessful, but that's one of the main reasons why I think this third attempt will be successful, is because everyone is kind of galvanized behind this one attempt, this one effort for us to get all of those signatures needed. So it's about 1.5 million, I believe, but we're trying to double that by collecting 3 million signatures. That way there isn't any problems, and the Secretary of State shouldn't have any issue with any of those signatures not being valid, because that was another thing, is, disqualifying signatures because either the person didn't sign, had the wrong voter registration address, or whatever the case may be. So when you sign the petition, you definitely want to make sure that you're doing so clearly and accurately.
Well, because I did notice that there was like, I think there was like 4 different petitions going around, and so I signed them all.
Right, exactly. That's what I was telling people. Just sign them all,
just to cover all the avenues, okay?
Right, exactly.
The four corners of California, I signed them all. And that's what, and I knew that, well, I had a suspicion, a good suspicion, that was the reason why, was because they did not and were not able to combine those petitions.
Correct.
But this is to the point of redundancy that, and you know as well as I know that he is attempting to close everything down again, which is totally, completely illegal. He's just a piece of work, and what is your status as far as you running for governorship?
Well, as far as the state is concerned, I'm still not declared. But as far as the people is concerned, the public, I am an official candidate running, or in the running, and at this point have formed an exploratory committee. So that basically means I want to, try the water, so to speak, and see how well received I am for, this next campaign, because the one thing that it's going to take is a significant amount of money. The one I've learned throughout my previous attempts running for office, that it does take a certain amount of money, not only to qualify as a candidate, but to be recognized as a candidate. So I can't come in, saying it's not going to take $1 million in order for me to win an election. The $1 million will make it easier for me to win the election, but of course I'm still going to need those millions of votes to actually get into office. The dollar amount helps me get that exposure, simply because, the elected officials or whatever, the press don't really pay attention to candidates unless they have a significant amount of campaign funds, and that's what I want to do. So for now, I'm asking for an amount of $10,000. That's my goal, $10,000, the majority of which will go towards filing fees, unfortunately, but the remainder of which will go towards making sure that I'm, again, being heard and known by voters here in California. But as far as the recall is concerned, if it is successful, then I'll be able to throw my name in the race as a candidate during the special election. But if it isn't, then I'll have to wait until 2022. But I don't think the people of California can wait until then. I don't think we want to wait until then, which is why I'm hoping that we get those signatures needed for this recall to be successful. But I do want to say, what's that?
What's the closing date? What's the
closing date for signatures is November 17th. So, of course, the sooner we get those signatures, the sooner we can get the special election launched, which is what we want. So if we get the, millions of signatures needed before the end of August, then sometime in September, October, maybe even November during the general election, we can have that gubernatorial special election coupled in. So instead of us using more taxpayers' money later on down the line to run this special election, we can actually couple it in with the general election and save us some money. So save some money, sign the petition now, let's get it done.
See, he's not only a good man, but he's in favor of blue light specials, too.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
He's already saving us money, folks.
Yeah, we want to save. I think everybody wants to save in the state of California, especially when we're being taxed more than everyone in the state or in the country per capita, They've just had the gas tax increase, 50 cents more per gallon. going towards the state.
Do you believe that, people? This is what we are dealing with in California. And the funny thing is that, you look to other states, other states that don't have refineries, or say, we'll throw Colorado in there because I used to live in Colorado. They don't have a refinery. Their gas is a fraction of the cost of California's, where California has refineries, and we are paying out the yin-yang. Our roads are crap. We don't have, you go to the DMV and they have this pie chart, right, of where all your monies are going to. And a big chunk, there's a huge piece of pie for road improvement. Oh, my goodness gracious. There aren't any. I just had a conversation
with a guy earlier about how Gavin Newsom has wasted a lot of the money collected for infrastructure improvements in California, including that gas tax increase, and has swindled it and used it for other pet projects of his that had nothing to do with, road repairs. But I let him know, hey, because his rebuttal to that was, well, how would the roads get fixed if government isn't doing it? I said, get government out of the way so we, the people, can do it. Domino's Pizza is willing to pave your roads and fix your potholes for free, all for slapping down the Domino's logo. I'd rather them do that than me pay 3 times, 6 times the amount than what the actual cost is in taxes. It's unnecessary. So it's awful that we put so much faith in government when they've proven time and time again that they're undeserving of that, and we fall for all of these politicians, fake false promises. And at what point are we going to finally put on our thinking cap and know better? And as I wanted to touch on a little bit of what you said about Gavin Newsom's arbitrary powers here and what he's done, because people need to know that what he's doing is wrong, it's unconstitutional, it's treasonous, and we should be demanding for him to resign now, or, again, that he be arrested on criminal charges, because what he's doing is definitely criminal. The Constitution does not delegate him the authority to shut down people's businesses, shut down people from being able to provide a living for themselves. Just the basics. You having the right to choose what you want to do with your own body. That's been taken away from you. And these are God-given rights that the government does not have the authority to ever infringe in any way, shape, or form. But yet he's exercised this executive power to do exactly that. And you have attorneys out there suing him against this, and as soon as they get to court and, have proven, the mask mandate is unnecessary, he changes drops the mandate. So then it nullifies the case because, because he changes the verbiage. Right. And you can't sue for something that they change, overnight. Exactly. Because what they do, and people have noticed, especially in California, because I don't know if you familiarize yourself with Peggy Hall or not, the woman that I told you about, that she's all about these masks and stuff. And she says that she goes on to Gavin Newsom's, the website itself, and the verbiage is constantly changing. So instead of, one day it says mandate, and then if you file paperwork to take him to court over these bogus mandates, then you're right. It gets thrown out because
there is no mandate because the verbiage has changed. People have got to start paying attention to this because it is of vital importance. Spelling, if you break that down, what does spelling have in it? Spell. And I'm not going freaking out and going Illuminati on you or anything like that. But verbiage is very, very important. And
just simply when it comes to legal matters, if you go to sue me for, saying that you can't put your trash outside, and I'm a landowner, and I'd say that, and you go to sue me for it, and then I change our agreement and say, well, you can't do it without my permission. The judge comes back and says, well, your case is null and void because they've since changed the agreement. So now you've just spent all of that money to sue me, and, it becomes a game with the courts. That's exactly what Gavin Newsom is doing. So has nothing to do with the Illuminati, has everything to do with legalities of what he's doing. There's a guy by the name of Mark Moyser, I believe, of the Dillon Law Group, who's involved in the recall for Gavin Newsom, and he has already filed a dozen or so lawsuits against Gavin Newsom since he's been in office, and that's actually what he said, is every time they go to, litigate this in court, that the judge comes back and says, well, since, the governor has changed the law, that negates the need for this lawsuit. And then they toss out the lawsuit. So, it turns from a mandate to a recommendation, but people still have in their mind this is a mandate. And then the businesses are still saying no business, and no mask, no business, no mask, no service. So they're imposing these restrictions on the public, and thinking that they're doing so lawfully when they're not at all.
Exactly, because I had a run-in with a well-known China establishment, and and I was kicked out for not wearing a device that hampers my breathing, and it's like, oh my goodness gracious, but I'm going to pursue it and continue to pursue it because this is totally, completely ridiculous. I mean,
you never know what's going to happen from one moment to the next, from one place that you go to the next. I mean, I actually, my wife and I, we went to a Chinese food restaurant out here, and even though they had the mask sign on the door, we walked in with no mask. The lady didn't say anything. She served us our food, and we went on about our way. And then we go to Walmart, or the dollar store, and the security guard outside is stalking us about wearing this mask when we're saying, hey, well, if you're wearing the mask to protect yourself from the virus, and why would it make any sense, just common sense, for me to also wear a mask when you're protecting yourself?
Well, also that, the mainstream media has everybody so paranoid and scared to death of this boogeyman because, I mean, all in all, they have yet to prove that this is anything more than a bad type of the flu, okay? They have not proven it to be anything but that. You have videos that came out of communist China where people are walking down the street, and then all of a sudden they're on the sidewalk dead. That's not propaganda.
I mean, a lot of people aren't taken into account about how the establishment has always used fear to keep us subjects. Whether it's 9/11 or, some world war that they're propagating, and this war, this pandemic panic, it's all been propagated out of fear. And I shared some information earlier because a lot of people talk about, science and this has everything to do with numbers. And I said, okay, well then why aren't some of the more densely populated countries in the world, why don't they have any coronavirus deaths? And I just plucked a few from the CDC website. For instance, Vietnam, over 95 million people, 0 deaths. I got Fiji, which is an island, has nearly 1 million people, 0 deaths. So you have countries out there where more people, they definitely aren't abiding by social distancing, precautions, and they're not wearing masks, yet 0 deaths. And here in America, we have a larger population, nearly 400 million people, and a fraction of those people have died. And, it's unfortunate that those people have lost their lives due to this, but it happens all the time due to the flu, due to stabbings, due to suicide. All sorts of other reasons why, people lose their lives on a daily basis. So for government to take such a stance to feel like they need to be our protectors and our mommy and our daddy and tell us what's good for us,
exactly
makes it all.
Well, just like in Brazil, now Bolsonaro, the president of Brazil, he was told that this makeshift hospital had over 5,000 people in it with COVID, and 120 of them had died. So he sends Parliament over to this hospital, and they bust through the little curtain because, again, it's a makeshift hospital. One of those millions that have been popping up, and there's not one person. There's not one person in this hospital, and so he in turn sends the Parliament to the cemetery. They dig up, they exhume the graves, and there's not one person in any of those 120 caskets.
Yeah, it's something fishy going on, and people should start questioning the legitimacy of the threat of this virus, especially when there's doctors, actual medical professionals, experts, coming out with information that contradicts the narrative. It actually says the virus isn't that much of a threat, and wearing a mask is going to increase your susceptibility because now you're restricting your breathing and causing respiratory issues. So us staying indoors is allowing our immune system to now become more deficient. So there are medical experts out there saying all of this information, but yet they aren't being their information isn't being reported in the news. And that's the scariest part. Because why are they controlling the conversation?
Exactly, because there is a narrative that they want to project and continue on with, and we all know that what the end result is. But Michael, do you have any questions for Nickolas?
Actually, I wanted to go back to the Gavin Newsom thing.
Okay.
There's no doubt. I'm not, I don't live in California, thank God. I used to a long time ago, but I got out when the getting out was good. But I realized that Gavin Newsom is, he reminds me of a flamboyant playboy more than an actual governor does. But what I see of him from a realistic point of view that's what he looks like. But if I think about it, is he really a governor? And when you guys are successful, and I hope you are because you don't want him, obviously,
No.
in recalling him, does that doesn't mean he immediately loses? It's got to be voted on again. Is that correct?
Correct. What happens is once the recall is successful, then people go to vote on the recall itself. And then if that is then successful, then we move to the special election. So it's like a three-step procedure to getting him out of office. First, we got to collect enough signatures to have a recall election. Then once that's successful, then they send out a ballot to every California voter and say, would you like to recall Gavin Newsom? Then everybody votes on it. Then hopefully once that passes and everybody votes in the majority, then we go ahead with the special election where he would have to run as a candidate, and it would be an open field for whoever to run. So,
okay, now I have a question though, Nickolas. If they send out these ballots, I mean, as far as voter tampering, because it's been proven. I mean, California is notorious for that. And this is, is it wise for them to send out these ballots, or should people actually go to the polling booths again and cast their ballot?
Well, that's the thing is you can't do that. Gavin Newsom signed an executive order making California mail-in ballot-only state, even though we've had these Black Lives Matter protests where you've had hundreds, if not thousands, tens of thousands of people out there protesting shoulder to shoulder, no mask, but yet we cannot go to a physical voting place. So since this executive order is now in effect, every voter in the state will be mailed a ballot. So it does increase that risk of voter fraud, like you were saying before, especially as, you have cases throughout the country where these mail-in ballots have went uncounted. They've even changed people's voter registration. So it's a myriad of things that can happen from it.
I had heard, though, that was null and void, that was illegal. He could not take the physical voting away from California.
Correct. But remember again, this is the same system that they're using to impose these unjust powers, we also have to use to reverse those systems. So even though he signed this executive order, it's a lawsuit.
Okay, so it's not a law. It's just one of Gavin Newsom's man-made rules.
Correct. An executive order is not a law. It's basically an order from an executive officer, which is in our state, the governor. A mayor could do it as well, and, of course, the president. But executive orders are not laws. Only legislators can make laws. Only we, the people, can make laws because we have to vote on them. Anything else is null and void. So all of these arbitrary laws that are imposed upon us are unjust, unlawful, unconstitutional, and we have every right to, protest against them with impunity. We just don't.
Well, because again, people are bamboozled into believing that just because he says it automatically makes it a law, and he's just talking out his mouth because he likes to hear his own voice. And
that's what Mike was saying. I apologize. Yeah, I didn't get to speak on the first part of this question, which was Newsom not acting very, gubernatorial, like a governor. And no, he's acting like a dictator. These people are just regular people, just like us.
Uh-huh.
They hold up their little piece of paper and say, I have some fancy degree from wherever college, and for some reason we get under this false sense of belief that they know better than us when they don't. And they prove it time and time again, whether they're in office for 2 years, 4 years, 8 years, 20 years, like Maxine Waters and Pelosi and all of these guys. But why are we still conditioned to believe that it works for us, that the system works for us? And we've gotten in this insane pattern of doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. We got to stop it. So with someone such as Gavin Newsom, he's already proven with his past as a mayor of Sacramento or San Francisco that he was unfit to be in a leadership role for the community. But because of those special relationships and, that good old boys club, he was able to be promoted through the ranks to lieutenant governor to now governor of the state. And if we don't stop him in his tracks, Mark Mosier is right. He is going to be the leading Democrat for the Democratic Party, and they will run him for president in 2024.
Yeah.
So,
well, here's the thing. One of the reasons that people continue to do the same thing over and over and over again is because they've accepted the necessary nonsense and unnecessary nonsense. They've accepted that as part of their lives, and they're not going to change. They're not going to change at all. What's going to change, and mark my word, this is the beginning of the change, what we're seeing right now. What's going to change is the way that this country is operated and how it's operated, because I promise you, the Zoomers don't give a tinker's damn about what Republicans think and what Democrats think and this, that, and the other. They're going to be the ones that will still make the change. And we're going to sit back and we'll sit back just like our parents did and their parents before them and before them, and watch the change take place, bitching about it, knowing that we have no control over that. That's why people do this.
We're primed for revolution. And yes, what was it, 1860 when Abraham Lincoln became, the first third-party candidate to win off of that two-party broken system, the Democrats, since the Democratic-Republican Party split. The Democrats were in control, and then the Republicans became the new party, and I feel like right now we're seeing the evolution of a new party happening. If people aren't ready to embrace the opportunities of the Libertarian Party, then they're also contemplating supporting, Green Party candidates, independent candidates. Kanye West, dumbass, is running under his own birthday party. So, but he's polling at 2%, and you have people actually talking about voting for Kanye dumbass West. And I really don't understand it, because he has no base at all, no just simple understanding of the interworkings of government. He doesn't even know how taxes work. He wasn't even registered to vote until he said, I'm going to run for president. So how can we take somebody like that seriously?
That's exactly my point. I was going to ask you that, because I listened to this guy who's the leading candidate for the Libertarian Party, and that is, without a doubt, that guy's out in left field. I'm telling you. And it's not that I don't like libertarians. And I think I don't even know what his last name is.
Yeah, the only Libertarian candidate is Joe Jorgensen. That's the nominated Libertarian Party candidate. And that's
I thought it was Larry Sharp.
No, Larry Sharp was a former candidate for vice president for the Libertarian Party. He was running.
Okay.
Yeah, and he was running alongside Judge Jim Gray, who was the presidential candidate. But since we've had our convention back a month or so ago, I believe, Joe Jorgensen became the nominated candidate, and she is running for president alongside Spike Cohen. But she is very based in her principles as far as libertarianism. She advocates for smaller government, for getting our troops back here at our borders to protect our country where they belong, reining in government powers where they've gotten out of control, ending the taxation, actually auditing the Federal Reserve, and hopefully leading that to its end. So if someone such as her could get elected, then we can start to see those libertarian ideals in play on an executive level, which will open the door for people such as myself running as an executive on the state level. So you want to check her out, I believe it's JoeJ2020.com or hashtag JoeJ2020. But definitely look her up and give her some consideration if you aren't on the Trump train or, on the...
believe me, I'm not on the Trump train. That's new, and I'm definitely not on the Biden train. I don't even like those parts.
You liar, Biden doesn't even know it's called a train.
I'm going to tell you, no, Joe Biden, he's lost. And Trump just is incoherent most of the time, so I'm tired of both of them. I listened to this one speech he did, and he didn't say one word that was coherent. Not one.
Yeah.
And I'm going, what?
I hate to say this, but both of them are past their prime. And in the working class, in normal working class, work field, the retirement age is about 65 or so. At which point you can now retire. If you continue to work, that's your choice. But usually most people want to stop working when they hit the age that Joe Biden and Donald Trump is, which is well into their 70s, mid-70s, late 70s on Biden's side. So I think it's time for some fresh blood, some new ideas, some more youthful energy to resurrect the values that this country was founded on, and that is freedom and liberty. The two parties, they say it, but how often do we see them follow through? And never, exactly. And we've gotten to the point where we've become disillusional. We don't think it's going to happen at all. And it's kind of made us despotic as people to where now we're not hopeful about our future any longer. The younger people, they feel like, why continue to invest in myself or my family or this country, even if it's all going to go to hell anyway? So we need to change. What's that?
I tell you, though, the Kardashians would bring new meaning to trash the White House.
Ain't that the truth? Well, I don't know. That Kim Kardashian, she's something else. She's actually doing more than Kanye West has done for black people. And I'm a black man, so I can say that. And anybody listening, don't be offended, because Kim Kardashian right now, she's actually fighting to have the police officers that shot Stephon Clark, a 22-year-old black man, in his grandparents' backyard because he had a cell phone in his hand. The police thought it was a gun. Shot,
whole
a few dozen rounds.
This whole thing is just. I wish that the news media, mainstream media, wasn't allowed to actually call out people's races, okay? Because this is getting to the point of redundancy. You have, and we know what mainstream media is trying to do. They're trying to create a race war. And it is just constantly, we're hearing this repeatedly over and over and over and over again. And I'm fit to be tied. And if we want to talk about Black Lives Matter, what about all the aborted black babies?
Yeah, I mean, as far as the organization of Black Lives Matter, I do not support it at all. I haven't ever been an advocate of the group of the Black Lives Matter Foundation that collects millions, billions of dollars in donations from people like George Soros. So that, to me, is completely separate from the message of Black Lives Matter, which more so is focuses on black people that are shot and killed by police officers. Has nothing to do with, black kids or, abortion or black-on-black crime that the media wants to call it, which is really community crime, because you have white crime that happens all the time, but it's not called that on the news. So you're right. The media is irresponsible in its approach to providing information to the public. We got to question why they are using such language. The reason is to divide and conquer, period, point blank. Because if we were all respected as just Americans and spoken of in such a light, then there wouldn't be such a black and white thing. When you go to England, they don't call Black England, or Black English or White English or whatever the case may be. You're just English. But we haven't embraced that mentality here in America. Why? Because the leaders, the people in power, would rather keep us separated, would rather keep us divided instead of united. So I feel like...
Nickolas, I do have two people that are muted, and they have been in the studio for pretty much since the show began. They are not from California, but we were talking before you came about the straw man and how to claim yourself claim yourself from your birth certificate. And and I know that you are you're a smart cookie on that, and so I'm going to go ahead and bring them into the studio so that we can all talk. And and I know that I only have you for a limited time, so but I'm sure they have questions for you. You have questions for them, and they're very, very sharp when it comes to all this. So the first person I'm bringing into the studio is Ed. Welcome back,
Thank you.
Ed.
Thank you. I'm having fun listening to this because I'm in. Nancy Pelosi is Folsom's aunt. I grew up with these people down there. I know how terrorizing. And don't forget that, what was the other governor's name? Jerry Brown. He's a cousin.
Mm-hmm.
See, if you learn the family trait of all these people who lived and slept with each other, too, it's interesting how the diamond. And I grew up with all this crazy stuff down there back in the 70s, 60s, 70s. But anyhow, I want to get into the strawman account. Let me give you my Edward Johnson on Facebook.
Ed, time out for a minute. Okay? Because I want to specifically talk about the thing that Trump had just signed about the bloodline. So let me bring Jake in also.
Okay. Yes. People don't comprehend that one at all, and you guys got to really pay attention to the real world.
Right. Okay, Jake, welcome back. This is Nickolas, and Ed is in the studio also. Okay,
Hello, Jim.
Do you want to introduce the things that Trump has signed into order?
I'll address this because I'm the one who filed it.
Okay, go ahead.
I mean, see, people got to realize that the native treaties still run in this country. I don't give a damn what you think about the Queen of England or your administrative rules and your fantasy, which you grow up with Federalist Papers. The original country treaties of this country is the Indian treaties with the British government, 1770. They are the law of this land. And once people start realizing, Gavin Newsom knows all this stuff. I fought with them with their family. That goes back 70 years or 60, 50 years ago because of my family. Because I've done the research, I've lived this stuff, and this is what you people got to realize: to file, to own yourself. When Trump came out and said this, and he came out and said it last year, and nobody listened to what he was saying. He didn't listen what he was saying when he gave back the Indians back their rights, not under what they call treaties, under the 48 states, so you could travel in the 48 states without being harassed. Do you have an open card anywhere in the 48 states of this country? And that's where people are not paying attention to what's going on. They keep attacking Trump, but they don't realize Trump is the president of the British Government Corporation. That's why under the 17th Amendment, you're allowed to vote for the Queen of England or the King of England or whoever that is representing the British government. As I am running for office right now, I'm running for county commissioner. They wanted me to file their way. I filed as a Native American. They panicked, and they said, well, if you get elected, you know you're going to have to fill out the paperwork by the Queen. I mean, I've got this in writing and stuff from the state. I know how the system really works. So when I said that, I said, then we'll have to deal with that in court, that if that has to come up. But we have to go to federal court, and that's out of Washington, D.C., under the jurisdiction of Philadelphia. Go ahead.
Hey, Ed, I got to pull back the reins on you because you have to explain to the listeners what Trump has signed into office.
Okay,
yeah, you're taking over their heads, my man.
I know. I really apologize, and I do that. That's why my Facebook is Edward Johnson. You go to it. I have a white teddy bear, the red rose. You send me a message, and I will email you a whole bunch of stuff that will blow your mind on the real truth that you can read. Okay.
So get to the
this
point,
is the bottom line is that when you go and register yourself, you're claiming yourself because when your mother registered you with the state, she gave you over to the state to the British law firms. Because everything's attorneys are there to protect you. They're the British law administration for the Queen of England.
Well,
so when you're
things first, people need to be questioning why is a birth certificate necessary.
Go ahead.
I said people need to be questioning first things first. Just logically, what is the need for a birth certificate? What is its purpose?
The purpose is it runs off an insurance bond that you are worth probably about $3 billion if you know how to go and access the money, that you're not supposed to pay your water, electricity, and fees because of the Treaty of 1861 under the British administration when they took over the United States. That's the contract, the two constitutional contracts we have literally today that's still in the bookworks and congressional records. That we're supposed to be having our system under executive order, and that's Title 28. 3002, that every time that things are paid into the system is supposed to be distributed back to the Native Americans. That's by law.
Right, but people need to tie in that certificate is basically a document being issued by the state to say that this is property. This is our property.
No, it's not property. I'm not property. I'm not property of the state. I own the state. I have my separation. I filed to own me. I'm totally separate. I am no part of the state, but I own my birth certificate. They gave me an instrument that I filed. So anytime the state House of Representative taxes anybody use it, it's identity theft. It's a federal crime. They go to jail. Anybody who does anything with my birth certificate, they mandatorily go to jail. It's already written and done. It's already been filed, and it's already happened. So people got to learn the real mechanisms of this.
How to do that.
Well, I mean, put it this way. All right, you're running for governor of California. I know that. I'm a fifth-generation San Franciscan. Okay, but in California, you don't need a hunting and fishing license. I know that because that's California Administrative Code Section 25 of California Constitution, and I know that for a fact. I never had a hunting and fishing license when I was in California. Even in Oregon.
But yet, out here, people will get fined or even arrested if they don't have that.
No, it's learning the law and learning how to talk to your public servants. I used to be a policy officer.
Color of law. Color of law.
Right, well, knowing what the law is, not statute, code, and administrative rule.
Right,
Well,
because
yes,
law and statutes are not the same.
Well,
So
that's
this is
true.
what I've
I'm talking
learned,
law,
guys,
not statute, codes, and administrative rule.
Right,
as much
right.
as
So,
you want to go around exercising your freedoms according to natural law, the system that exists does not recognize that, which is why we are still
They can't recognize natural law because it goes back to the King of England of 1329 who founded natural law. That goes under the Black Law Dictionary, and Black Law Dictionary was written as a total joke. And they were amazed that people bought into it because it was written by the jesters if you do the real history on it. You know, I've only got 40 years of research and 30 years in government in this stuff and doing as advisor and stuff. And then when I started speaking out, everybody panicked because I was the guy in the back room that I didn't ever want it to be known. And then all of a sudden I decided I'm going to speak up because I couldn't handle the bullshit anymore. So when you're running for office,
like you need to join the Libertarian Party.
You're a private side creditor. You're a private side creditor.
Right, but I'm not running as a party. I'm not running as an elected official. I'm running as a Native American has lawful authority over their administration by law. Your treaties supersede the Constitution, and it works. I've done it, and I'm doing it now. You know, right now I've got things that I'm getting ready to file on my city that's going to shock people because they've tried to shoot me, stab me. I've got videotapes of being shot at. I've got them where they arrested me, where the judge tried to have me beat to death in jail, tried to kill me in jail, all for telling the judge to take a flying hike.
Well, see, Nickolas has had his fair share of run-ins.
Hey, I get it. I comprehend.
His fair share
Nickolas, get my information.
Being kidnapped, and Nickolas also has a YouTube channel where you can see where he has actually been in court, and he has walked out of the judge, and
YouTube channel. Tell it so that people can get it.
It's just amazing, but I believe that it takes more than just one person. It takes all of us. Like this.
Well, it does. That's the point that we're trying to get people to hold each other's hand and step through this maze. Because if you file for your rights, I file for my rights. Everybody's filing for their rights, and they're panicking right now so bad. That's why the COVID virus. Because this was planned in 1999 through the Oregon State House and Senate and congressional records. This was planned because they knew what people were doing.
The plan.
My plan is to infiltrate it and from an executive level, free everyone.
Right.
Instead of doing it one by one and us taking 5 years, 10 years to collectively come together to fight against the system, that's going to take forever. And my son doesn't have time to wait. We want to do it now. We need to focus on infiltrating the political system, occupy the vote, occupy the voting booth, occupy government. Get in there, and those of us that know this information, once we get in there, start dissecting that legal system by
Are you going to educate people to not have a driver's license, travel without a license, and learn how to fish and hunt without their license so long as they're bloodline native?
Yes.
If you're an immigrant, you have absolutely no right.
Every damn time. Ava will tell you. I speak at debates about getting rid of gun licenses because that's the reason
I have
why
one. I carry open in public and concealed. I've been doing it for 40 years, and everybody knows I do it.
I have seen Nickolas. He's driving his car, just minding his own business, and then he gets red lighted, and he's stating facts to these tyrants. And
Nickolas, you know they're private contractors, right?
Well,
yes, and I let them know that.
Okay, so if they're private contractors, you have a right because a police officer is supposed to actually have a concealed license permit on his person, and you know what person means, it's an inanimate object, but he's supposed to have his person if asked for it, and if he doesn't provide it, you call a supervisor and have it arrested for carrying a loaded firearm. Because he doesn't have rights, he has privileges.
Ooh, that's actually a real good one, Nickolas. You got to follow that in your
But this is what I try to tell people,
otherwise known as liberty.
I think it works. Because it's
Liberty
right now,
privileges. They're not true
remember, your
freedoms.
police departments, your sheriff's department, your county electors, and your county elector and your county clerk, they're all nonprofit agencies. So if you file a 45068 form on them, because you know when you pay those fees, and they don't give you a receipt most of the time, so you just pay the fee, you go on. So that's unaccounted money. That's a federal crime by the IRS.
Yeah, the thing is,
to prove it, you shut down the agency.
When you're pulled over by the cop and you're looking them face to face and you have that exchange, they're going to say, "I'm just doing my job," and they're not going to give a damn about.
But here's the law. Ask them to explain their administrative rules.
Pull back on the reins. Let Nickolas finish what he's going to say first, okay? Okay, go ahead, Nickolas.
I was saying that if you have that exchange with the police officer, that usually turns up to where they are threatening you with going to jail, taking your property, or, at least issuing a ticket. So it isn't to where you can have this exchange and they let you go, and it's that easy. I've come to learn that, and that's why I'm saying that instead of everyone having to battle it and continue to do it the hard way, what's the easiest way for us to achieve that? And that's getting an elected official in office that knows all of this and will start, again, dismantling the system. Because once you have that exchange with the officer, they're going to say, okay, you have to deal with it in court. And then once you go through the court system, the court doesn't want to recognize
court are you talking about?
that because they built it.
You'll never, like if your status
you
is
got to
correct,
realize what court are you talking about? Because the only court that has authority is Washington, D.C. Your local district court is under the Queen of England. It's a legislative court. You go into that court. I've even got testimony from generals that says you walk in that court, you're screwed. You have no rights. You don't walk in that court. You file an amendment before you go in that court that you have to prove that you are a living man of native structure to the soil to walk into that court. And I've got that from generals.
I'm just talking about the average person that is unaware of all of this.
The average person they're listening to us right now talking. How are they supposed to learn? We have to educate them and teach them.
Well,
absolutely.
And that's doing now.
You got to have your negative amendments filed.
Right. But hey, guys, we're getting towards the end of the program. So I just want to take this opportunity. Maybe I should schedule a show for all of us to come back in a couple of weeks. And
no problem. Just my website is new.org/doctors, and hopefully I don't fall asleep again.
And pick up this conversation again. Nickolas, I will see you in Ventura, and
August 8th.
Because there is going to be, regardless of what that parasitic globalist Gavin Newsom has to say, let's make history at the beach. Recall Newsom 2020, August 8th at noon in Ventura. Is going to be a peaceful protest, no rioters, and that is at 668 East Harbor Boulevard in California. Wait, is that where it's going to be, Nickolas?
Yes.
Harbor Boulevard?
Yes.
Okay, so again, that is, because it says Ventura, so that is 668 East Harbor Boulevard, California 93001, and there's going to be public parking in a structure. So if you Californians are able to go, I highly recommend it. Nickolas is not the only speaker that is going to be there. There is I can barely read all these names.
You got Pastor Rob McCoy, who's a pastor of a church who's been wanting to continue to keep his church open for those people of faith that want to, come into his church. He will be there speaking, as well as Dr. Shanae Anderson, who is a doctor.
File the paperwork.
What's that?
I'll show him how to file the paperwork, because if he files and anybody who goes to that church says that the state's not liable, they all autograph it, notarize it, and publicly put it on the front door. The cops can't come in and harass you because you all agreed to the contract.
Okay,
I think Pastor McCoy
Article 1, Section 10, the cops have to go by the Administrative Code 13.
Okay. Add. We have to wrap this up. Continue, Nickolas, with the people that are going to be there, please.
Those are just a few, and we also have a few of the organizers. Gina Bacon, who's a independent business owner there in Ventura, as well as myself, who are involved in the We Have Rights organization. So the We Have Rights, we were the ones that put together the Reopen California protest that you heard about in Huntington Beach and in Sacramento and San Diego, et cetera. So we were able to pull tens of thousands of people out then. Hopefully we'll be able to do so again August 8th, so we can get some people signed up for this recall, because that's what it's really all about. And we hope that all of the people that have been protesting, criminal justice reform and, abuses of authority and homelessness in the state will join us there as well.
Okay, great. We're going to be cut off at any minute. So I want to thank Michael for hosting with me. Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Nickolas, for being our guest.
Michael.
I love you. I miss you. Love
you
Crystal
too.
and the baby. Thank you, Ed, for calling in. Thank you, Jake,
for
get a hold of me.
In.
I will go ahead and connect everybody, but give me a little bit, because I have to make a few phone calls. And God bless everyone. Be kind humans and have a blessed tomorrow. Good night, everybody.